Hello everyone and welcome to the Paint and Picnic virtual workshop. Today we will be making the most beautiful watercolor cross. As you can see, I'm just going through and showing you all of the different materials that we used. So you're going to start off with a pencil. It doesn't matter what type of pencil. And then we have these watercolor brushes and watercolor paper. Now do make sure that whatever supplies you're using are meant for watercolor. That's just going to be because the brushes are going to soak up more water, and then the watercolor paper is going to be able to soak up more water before it starts to deteriorate. Now the harder weight that you get, the more water it will be able to absorb. And then I'm also just using this watercolor paint kit. It doesn't really matter which kit you use, as long as they have a wide variety of colors. After that, you're just going to need a cup with some water. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with our pencil, and then we are going to switch from landscape into this portrait style. From there, we're going to go ahead and start sketching our canvas. I'm starting at the top towards the middle with a upside down U, pulling it down to the bottom and creating a right side up U. And these are going to start the basis for our cross. As you can see, I've kind of used my finger as a guide, and I'm just doing the same process but going vertically, making it just a little bit shorter because this is going to make the T to our cross. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make our center. Now, I've put a heart in the center, but you can kind of put whatever you want. This is just going to give us a baseline for the center of our cross, and it's just going to make it easier to sketch out. So from here, I'm just making the bare bones of what I think my cross is going to look like. And like I said, this is just setting it up as a guide. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the sides of our cross. So from here, I'm just making 2 half circles jaded out from the bottom. And then as you can see, I've made 1 more below it. And this is because this is what I'm going to use as my swirl. So I'm just taking and curving that. From there, we're going to make 2 lines out the bottom, and then 2 lines to connect those guided lines. And this is just going to act like a really fancy point to our cross. Now from here, I'm just going to pull those 2 lines down and start connecting the sides of our cross. And this is a really good moment to kind of shape and reshape. If you feel like it's not symmetrical, or maybe you want to add a couple more lines or swirlies. Now we're going to do the same process, but we are going to be working on the side of our cross, so just 2 semicircles, and then we use from there into our swirls. Same thing, semicircles, 1 more to create our swirl. And you can see our cross is already coming together. So from here, we're going to work on the bottom. Now, I find it easiest to just flip the paper completely around. That way, it's as though I'm working from the top and I'm not trying to work backwards. From here, as you can see, we're going to be doing the exact same process again. This time, making our semicircles a little bigger. As you can see, I kind of messed up on this part, and that's okay. We're going to be covering a lot of this, so it's all right to just erase and kind of readjust. All right, from here, we're going to finish connecting, starting with the base. And this is also, like I said, a good moment to kind of adjust if you feel like it's going to be off. Same thing, just mimicking the top with these 2 little points. And then you can see we're going to go ahead and close this out by just connecting the bottom part of our cross. From here, I'm going to add an outline. As you can see, I'm literally just outlining the piece. And this is also a great moment to freestyle. If you want to take the time and make more patterns or stripes or, whatever you want to your heart's content. And that's it. This is what our cross should look like all drawn out. From here, we're going to go into our paints. Now, it doesn't really matter what paint color you choose, as long as you start with the lightest color first. So I'm going to dip into this light blue. I'm going to be using a 12, but as long as it is a larger flat brush, anything will work. And as you can see, I'm just lightly dabbing into my blue. I don't have a ton on there. And I'm just going to very, very lightly color in my entire cross. As you can see, with watercolor, it's kind of playing around with it. The less water you use, the darker the color is going to be, and the more water you use, the lighter the color is going to be. And so you kind of get definition by how much water you use. So I'm just kind of very lightly going through here. And you can kind of play around with it too with this. I didn't ombre this cross, but you could. So you could start with less water and then add more and more water to your paint pan and your brush as you go along. And that would create that dark to light effect, or vice versa. And as you can see, this process is pretty quick. I'm almost done completely. And don't worry about your pencil lines. This is just going to create the definition for creating your outline later, which is when we're going to go in with that darker color. As you can see, this is it all finished. And then we're going to go in with a smaller brush. I'm going in with a 6 and my darker color. And now we are going to trace all of those original lines that we made. As you can see, I left my middle heart open, and that's because I'm going to fill it in with this darker color. And that's why it's important that you pick a smaller brush. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a 6. It just needs to be thinner and smaller. That way it's easier for you to create your lines. I also recommend starting from left to right and then top to bottom. That way you're not getting or smearing your lines as you run your hand across. You would do the opposite of that if you're left-handed. As you can see, I'm just very carefully outlining and detailing each piece. This is a moment where you kind of want to go slower. I've been doing watercolor since I was probably like 6, so definitely started at a very young age. So basically, guys, I've been doing it long enough that I don't feel like I need to go super slow with it, but do take your time with this part because there's no getting it back. Once you put those lines down in that darker color, you're just going to have to completely restart if you don't like it. So do take your time here. Once you are finished with all of your lines, now we're going to go in and we're going to do our heart. So I'm just tapping back into that darker color and very, very lightly filling in my heart. Just ever so lightly. I find it easier to go in a tapping motion here, but honestly, you could do anything. Once your heart is filled in, if you're satisfied with the color, you can leave it. I feel like it's a little bit too dark, so I'm just going in with a clean brush and letting my brush absorb the water. And that way I can kind of play around with the look of my heart and give it more of that watercolor look of an effect. So here comes the fun part. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start working on the background of our piece. So now I'm going in with an even darker color, and that's because we're going to be really lightening it up as we go through and use more and more water. So I'm just going to go ahead and start in the top right-hand corner, just making this zigzag-like appearance. And from here, I'm just going to add more and more water. And this is where you can kind of really play around with your background. If you want more of a blurred look, you're going to add more water. And if you want more of a dark look, you're going to add less water. So for me, I wanted it to be super blurred, just a very, very light background. So I'm just going in and you can see I'm barely tapping into my palette and I'm just adding more and more water. And I did put a little bit more down here at the bottom just because I'm covering such a big space. But you can just, like I said, keep playing around with this. Now, if you want, you can also use a bigger brush. I just really wanted this flat brush. That way I could kind of give it that, like I said, that blurred effect. I'm just going in and adding a little bit here and there and covering it with water.
Quit!
Okay, and from here I'm going to go into my second color. Now I'm picking this orange color, but really all that matters is that you just grab a color with a pop to it. And in my case, since I'm doing it blurred, I know that this orange is going to probably turn out closer to a yellow color, which I'm perfectly okay with. So do keep that in mind if you're wanting to have more of a blurred look. If you are wanting a darker look, then you don't have to worry about the colors fading. But yeah, you could do any color that you want here. It really just is your preference. I could see, you know, a pink looking just as nice, or maybe even a green. As you can see, I'm just adding more and more water and creating that blurred effect. Just blending. And that's what it looks like all done. Thank you so much for painting with us. I can't wait to see you guys on the next one.